someone came from a different system, especially an old legacy system, and I'm not going to mention any names. Microsoft.
Bless you.
Welcome to ERP on Tap, your steady flow of everything you want to know about NetSuite and Acumatica. The podcast where we dive into practical tips, expert insights, and real-world examples, exploring the tools, tips, and tricks you need to make your business processes flow like never before.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Jonathan McKee.
And I'm Micah Harrison.
And man, I am pumped about this episode because NetSuite twice a year has these releases, these updates, and I've got the guys to talk about it. Ikra, who do we got on today's podcast?
So we have Travis and CJ here from our NetSuite team. Super excited to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, you know what? We've heard about these releases before. We've even dialogued about those on the ERP on Tap podcast. But this is an opportunity for us to hear specifically about the 2026.1 release. So I can't wait to hear what these guys said. As a matter of fact, we'll put in the notes below. These guys just did a webinar on it with some detailed analysis of some of what's coming out. But kind of, I like to hear just a little bit from you guys. In a very casual arena like this podcast. What is some of the things that you're actually excited about? Some of the things that maybe our customers are excited about. And then you as listeners, we want to hear from you as well. So please not only hit the like and subscribe button on this podcast, but jump into the comments. And if you have any questions, comments, please let us know. What are the things you like about this upgrade? What are the things you don't like? We want to hear from you. But let's start. Before we dive into the specifics on this, I'm going to ask a question I've asked before. And Travis, I'm going to address this one towards you. I talk with people moving from other software systems all the time. And when they are talking about moving to other software systems, if we ever talk about configuring something a certain way or customizing something a certain way, you can see if someone came from a different system, especially an old legacy system, and I'm not going to mention any names, Microsoft.
Bless you.
But if they have come from a different system, very often they're very scared when we talk about an update and these twice a year updates. And the reason they're scared is because they know that in the past with some of those other systems, update means, everything's going to break when this update happens. So I want to ask you an honest question, Travis. When NetSuite updates, how often do you get of our 400 plus NetSuite customers, do you get them going, oh my gosh, stuff broke? I mean, honestly, speak to us here.
So, right, Jonathan, it's rare. Unlike, maybe a lot of us are familiar with, right, the old days, maybe some it's still the current days, but those platforms that were on-premise solutions really required a lot of heavy lifting to get the logic and any customizations upgraded before the actual platform upgraded itself. So no, it's been a very nice and seamless solution, and we're really past that with the NetSuite platform. So yeah, and I do often talk about the release preview, which is a huge benefit for clients to be able to leverage that system to test and qualify before their actual production system's upgraded. So there's some awesome, nice features to just really qualify and be rest assured that things are working appropriately before the system is actually upgraded.
That's nice. So they could test it. Ikra, similar in Acumatica as well.
Well, I would say it's actually kind of different because we have to go through a whole upgrade process with sandboxes. It may not be every time with the new Always Current program, but think people who have customizations, it is still best practice to do a sandbox environment, which is, included in the upgrade process. But it is a little bit more hands-on. So it's nice to hear that, it's limited impact to customers. It looks like there's no downtime or anything like that. It just sounds like it just happens overnight, and lo and behold, you're upgraded the next day. Did I get that right?
Is that a good description, guys?
It is. I mean, and really, it's a rolling upgrade, right? So NetSuite doesn't put any one customer into the whole pool of all customers being upgraded on a single evening. So they're all scheduled throughout a certain time frame, and then those schedules, every person who administers the system or is an administrator to the system gets a notification when they log in it identifies for them when their upgrade is going to occur, and then they can. There's plenty of time to allow themselves to prepare for being offline, and usually it's a convenient time, or more convenient, because it's like on a Friday at 1 a.m. or actually that'd be a Saturday. So it doesn't put, or they work very diligently to not put the customer in a position where it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. So
Yeah. No, our CFO sent an email to all of us and was like, "Hey, y'all, you just need to know, don't be on the system at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
on Saturday morning." And I was like, "Oh man," because there's nothing I'd rather do with my time at Saturday at 1 a.m. than jump on NetSuite and get some work done.
That's funny. That's exactly what I think. I'm like, I'm not on it that late, but okay, thanks.
Exactly. Thanks. Well, and obviously some folks are working with customers for a go live on the weekend or something like that. So I'm sure that happens. Well, I'm excited, CJ and Travis. You guys just did a very helpful webinar. And I love your webinars because they're very in depth, and you went through a bunch of the stuff that we can expect with this new NetSuite update. And so I love the fact that you were able to join us here at ERP on Tap after that webinar, to just kind of chat with us a little bit, as an aside of kind of what are the things that, maybe are some of the things you're excited about. What are some of the things that our customers are excited about? So let me quickly ask our listeners, those of you guys who are listening in, thank you for listening to ERP on Tap podcast. And what about you? What are some of the things that you guys are excited about? With the new upgrade? Is there something that you wish they would update? Is there something that you're hoping they'll update? Is there something already updated that you're already making use of? We'd love to hear from you. So please jump into the comments, help that algorithm. We love your feedback. CJ, I'm going to start with you. I know you guys covered some of this stuff in depth in the webinar. We're going to link that below, but tell us what you personally, of the things that they updated, what's something that you're kind of excited about?
Yeah, sure. So I spend, just a little bit of background, I spend a good amount of time with our clients in what NetSuite calls the order to cash kind of piece of the software. So that's being like creating sales orders, creating invoices, receiving payment for those. And a big thing they're rolling out with 2026.1 are price rules. And so this is something that I think anybody who is trying to run a promotion or have items that fall into different price levels and they want that to apply automatically has struggled with. In the past, that's something that maybe you would have to rely on user input in order to achieve, or you would have to go back and update it yourself if that doesn't happen. Now there's what's called a price rule. And that allows you to assign specific items to either all customers or a group of customers within a certain date range. And then any sales transactions that meet that criteria will automatically get a price level applied to them, right? So to kind of put it in more like real world terms, if you buy like a bike frame between now and the end of March, and you happen to be one of the customers that this price rule applies to, then you'll get that, whatever that price level is that's assigned to that. And the great thing too is that like these groups of customers can be either just like a static list. You just define, I want X, Y, and Z customers to get this this price rule, or it can be a dynamic one. So you can have it so where it's actually the customer has to meet a set of criteria to even be included in the list for that price rule to apply to them. So it gives you a ton of flexibility just as far as like how you want to structure your rules around pricing. And then you don't have to rely on checking to see, does this meet, this criteria? Do we give them this pricing? The system takes care of it for you, which, the less you have to rely on that kind of user input or remembering to do things, the better, in my opinion.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Just being able to manage those like promotions and things like that for those customers. I could definitely see that really beneficial for a lot of the customers that use that module for distributors, retail. What I really liked in particular was like there was a dynamic rule that you were talking about where you have to meet this criteria to be able to get this pricing. I thought that's really cool.
For sure. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of times too, especially if it's something that's longer running, you might want to have considerations for who qualifies and what that definition of that is. And you're not having to go back and add customers and remove customers. It's doing it automatically for you, which is, great. I mean, from just in terms of like a quality of life standpoint is awesome.
How do updates to those lists work? Just like kind of maintaining them over time.
So you're talking about as far as like pricing for items or
I was gonna say just for this, like, is it just based off like a start and end date for this promotion, or is there a long, you know, a
it
s-
can be either an
time?
always effective price rule, or it can have start and end dates that govern it. And then the
Okay.
items or the and the customers that the rule applies to can be modified at will throughout the duration of it. So it's something that you can always go back and edit. It's not like you have to get it all right right off the bat, and you can't change it, or you're locked into it for some period of time. You can always make revisions to it if you need to.
Thanks.
That's cool.
Awesome.
CJ, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you if there's something specifically that your customers you think are looking forward to this update. But Travis, let me pick your brain of this update. There was a lot of different stuff. And again, your webinar went into great detail. But what's something that you specifically, resonated with this particular update?
Yeah, and if you were there, you could probably tell I was really fascinated by the consignment, the consignment inventory that has been asked by so many clients over the
Hmm.
several years time frame, and it's great that they really started in on that endeavor and are putting in, the capabilities because we have, customized the system for clients who really needed to handle consignment items. And, some of those were very extensive. And they'll probably, like, as I look at the way that NetSuite is, starting out and that growth model, I'm sure we'll continue to see enhancements made to it. It'll probably end up augmenting, what we've put in place and maybe eventually replace that customization. But yeah, that was to me a heavy hitter, and I appreciate them putting it in there because it really is both the traceability, right? And think about it. Say like for a jewelry company that is doing consignment items, I buy a watch for them. Later, I come back and I would like to put that on consignment because I'm actually going to buy another watch from them, something maybe I like, but can't afford both of them at the same time. The system now is going to allow you to track that, and that's depending on the client, what their state rules are for capturing the GL impact of that potential revenue, right, once it sells, and when they're really taking ownership of it versus it's still mine, if as an example, leaving it there for someone else to buy. And then the GL impact of that, right, really realizing, even though it's now left my possession, it's in the company's possession to sell. And then when do they realize the revenue from that, from when they actually sell it to when they actually brought it in inventory? So the GL impact of all of that, transactional activity, those can be difficult things depending on your business rules. So it's pretty cool that they started in with the consignment inventory feature.
That sounds really cool. So being from the construction industry, all of that kind of goes over my head, and all I can think of are like pawn shops with jewelry examples that you
Yeah,
give.
yeah.
What industry does this typically, affect? Is it mostly distribution?
Mostly pawn shops.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. I was like, did we
the
just
ones
open
that
up a
want to
new
return.
market?
Yeah,
Stolen guitars and
Not
I want to return a
stolen,
two
just
by four, right?
but yeah, I immediately went to pawn shops because we like to watch what is that show on Netflix with the pawn
Pawn
store?
stars, right?
Yeah, there you go. Um,
That's
but
good.
when
No,
when I think of jewelry, so like, is it just distribution mostly? Or like, is that where it really comes into play the most?
Yeah, yeah, typically. I mean, if you think about consignment, right? Clothing, jewelry is a big one. And, jewelry as a whole, some of our customers are very focused on just a specific line of jewelry.
Mm.
Even though they have full lines that they're actually new selling, there's also an opportunity for their clients to bring in something that they might want to offload. So yeah, mostly we've seen it though in that consumer market.
That's good.
Okay.
That's good. All right. Well, CJ, I promised you I'd come back and ask you about specifically the customers that you've worked with. What do you think is something that's part of this 26.1 release that you think our customers might really resonate with?
Yeah, so it's not like, I mean, it's nothing earth shattering. I think it's something you could easily overlook in the release notes, but I do think that the addition of the predicted payment dates for invoices. So NetSuite's always, every webinar, it seems like there's an increased focus in machine learning or utilizing AI in some degree in order to either
Absolutely
improve, clean up user data when they're like in a text field, or quality of life improvements, things like that. And this is another area where they're leveraging that AI in order to kind of provide clarity for the end user in particular. And so what they're doing is they're adding custom fields on invoices. You have to enable this feature in your NetSuite system, but if you do, then these fields, they're like predicted payment date, predicted overdue dates, and predicted like payment date availability. So like when the customer could pay. And all of this is based off of a customer's transaction history and their payment patterns. So you think about it from the perspective of like an account manager or from a salesperson who's looking at these, or even somebody that's in maybe the AR, in accounts receivable. This is great information to have at a glance. You're not having to, create reports in order to see it. You're not even going to go anywhere. You can look at a specific invoice and it's giving you its best estimation, based on, months, years of historical data and customer behavior, when to expect that you're going to get paid for this invoice. And the nice part is you can actually not every customer is the same. Obviously, we all know that some customers pay in weird times. Sometimes there's payment arrangements depending on what's going on. And so you also have the ability to override that on an invoice by invoice basis. So if you know that it's going to be the case, you can plug that in there, and then anybody else that's looking at that is going to get the right information, and they're not going to be misled later down the road. So again, not like a huge reinvention of anything in NetSuite, but I think some of those little quality of life improvements are things that can be easily ignored, but really are helpful, especially from the perspective of somebody who's just going in and using the system every day to, perform their daily duties.
No, for someone who does, it's amazing how sometimes just a small fix or a small update will be something they're like, oh my gosh, I do that, 7 times an hour. This is the greatest thing ever. And really, it's not anything that big, but It's something that really makes their life easier. So, and that's a good question I throw to you, listeners. Of these updates that they've mentioned so far, or of the updates you've seen in this new release, what are the ones that you think that you will use the most? Please jump in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. So chime in. Travis, to you, I want to ask you, you spoke from what you were kind of excited about. That was super helpful. But what is something that you think with all the customers you work on, and I know that kind of crosses over to what you just shared as well, but is there something else that you think specifically you've got customers that you think, oh, I know they're going to be excited about this?
I think it comes down to the capabilities of AI. I'm going to extend what CJ was referring to, because we have this product, right? It's called Ride Insight, and I am still I'm blown away at how efficient and incorporated our clients have made that into their everyday business practices. We have clients that are using it to help them make business decisions, and that AI engine is just running it, there in the background and working for them diligently, even in the just their everyday business activities. So I just can't be more amazed and enthused about it because of where NetSuite is helping us land with that technology. And like I said, Ride Insight is just incredible. So that is probably my one thing that I just appreciate a lot about NetSuite and where our clients could potentially go with that platform.
Good.
Yeah, I think that whole AI enhancements in general are going to be just so helpful for making like decisions in the future, especially with that payment estimated date functionality is just like you can anticipate cash flows, you can make decisions on, maybe expansions or not, all that stuff. There's so much like more visibility into the potential of what's coming up versus like waiting till that happens. So honestly, it
Yeah.
sounds really, really neat.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
to just extend on that, Ikra, is there's so much information in the system. Some of our clients are very fast paced, high volume, and there's
Mm-hmm.
also so much information that is collected in their system. And in particular, when you look at the amount of time that they have been working to accumulate information,
Yeah.
to then structure that, report back to clients, that now, Right Insight is able to do that for them.
Yep.
It's just incredible. And what it's doing is then allowing them to work in other areas more efficiently in NetSuite. So yeah, it's super cool.
That is. Okay, I've got one more question for each of you. So Travis, this one's coming, but I'm going to start with CJ. CJ, it's great to hear about this release, and they can jump to the notes below and click on your webinar and even find out more. But I want to ask you another question, and that question is: we've seen so many releases here now. What's something that you were in maybe in the back of your mind when this released before it was announced, thinking, "Man, I sure wish they would add this," or "I sure wish they would update this"? Is there something that you've been waiting for? Come on, NetSuite listens to ERP on tap. If they're listening to you, what's something you're like, come on, NetSuite, add this? What do you think, CJ?
Oh, that's you're putting me on the spot here. I mean, there's a number of things that could always use improvement or refinement. I personally spend a lot of time working with our clients, moving with data migration and importing data. That's an area that I'm very hands-on with them with, and it's something I've heard them lament the fact that it's not available, and I'd like it as well. Is it happens to everybody when you're doing a data load for the first time. Invariably, something's not right, and you're going to get an error, and you're going to have the results spit out back to you. But the problem is it only shows you the first error you make, and not any of the rest in the order. And I can't tell you how many times I've been on a call with a client, and that's always their number one. Whenever we're working on data loads, it's always like, I wish it would show me more than my first error, because then I have to go back and upload it again and again and again. And I'm sure that's easier said than done, but
Yeah.
that's
No,
something I know. I would not be alone, in being thrilled if that improved at some point in the future. But
no, that sounds super.
In
That
the
sounds
wish.
Yeah.
super helpful. What do you think? What do you think, Ikra? Is that a similar thing? And I know you migrate data all the time in
Yeah.
Acumatica. Is that similar?
I was gonna say it's close. It's one of those things where I guess it's something I take for granted on Acumatica side. So it's a similar report, but with Acumatica, it does give you that full list of reports. But then you'll get this if it's the same error multiple times, it gives you a separate message. So it's not always clear that it's that same error, but it still does give you the split out of everything else. But it's like you're trying to like scratching your head of like, wait, well, what is this one? And then you have to kind of put two and two together and be like, oh, it's because this one aired out, and now these are the same errors associated with
Interesting.
that.
Interesting.
It
Okay.
is,
No,
yeah,
good.
exactly. It was just a different way, and I was like, oh, that's similar struggles, but slightly
Yep.
different.
Yeah. So Travis, what about you? Forget this 26.1 release. What do you wish that NetSuite would add or update? If you knew that NetSuite was listening to you, what's a feature
They
that
are.
you'd wish that they would release in
Yeah.
the maybe 26.2 or 27.1? What are you waiting for?
Yeah, so that EFT module, also known as the payments module, it still is a manual process to get that ACH file over to the bank. And if they just made that seamless, so this is the interesting part, right? Bank feeds allows data into NetSuite.
Yeah.
Payments administration could allow the file to go back to their bank. That would be a nice feature without any overhead. Just make that functionality. That's what I would wish for.
Yeah, I wish for that on Acumatica side too. There's a few like ACH exports, especially with payroll, and just having to manually, load that file over.
Yeah, and clients they love the payments module. They utilize it all the time. But it's funny because when you talk about it, it's all exciting until it's like, oh, we got to take the ACH file manually over to the bank. So yeah.
I
But
know, but I'm
anyway,
like, it's least it's better than manually importing every single like ACH information. So
yeah,
it's I try to focus on the positive too, which I'm sure you do, Travis. But I do get it, like being able to just have that seamless integration, not really having to leave the system, and
yeah,
just you process it and it gets uploaded. And again, with the bank feed, half of the connection is already there. So if Acumatica, if you're
That's
listening.
cool.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
well, CJ and Travis, we can't thank you enough. I know you're no strangers to the podcast. We appreciate you jumping on again. This is a great behind the scenes peek into the 26.1 release that some people are probably in the middle of right now. Good insight, and especially I enjoyed hearing what you guys want to see in the future. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah,
yeah.
thanks for
Thank you.
Thanks for
sharing.
having us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
take care.
listeners, what about you? Jump in the comments. If you're a NetSuite customer already, which one do you think you'll use right away? And if you're not, which one of these did you like, the most or the least, or what do you want to see? Come on,
Mhm.
let NetSuite is listening. They want to get better and better. So take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button if you think this was helpful for you. We value you here, and we're so excited to continue this dialogue on ERP on Tap. I'm Jonathan McKee.
And I'm Mika Harrison.
And this has been another episode of ERP on Tap. Wait. Everybody, just hold on for a second. Travis, we can see you reading your screen. This is ERP on Tap. You're on a podcast. Stop doing other work right now. What are you doing, man?
Hey, Jonathan, when I heard I was going to be on this, I put up 6 monitors. I got everything here I want to talk about. So I'm just looking at it all.
Stop reading your other monitors. We're right here, Travis. Okay, ready? Here we go.
Is your coffee leaking?
Mine? I don't know what you're talking about. We're super excited about this episode, and we're going to start over because I said the word excited, and that's a word that we say about 13 times per episode. So let's start again.